Okay guys, in this activity we are going to use a loop, but we're going to use a loop to find out if a word is a palindrome, okay? So remember that a palindrome is a word that is spelled backwards and it's exactly the same word, okay? So we're going to talk about how to create a program that detects if a word is a palindrome. Okay, so for example, the word civic, okay? If I spell the word civic and I change all the letters backwards, I am getting exactly the same word, okay? So this is a palindrome. The same happens with the word level, okay? And other words also. So in order for a computer program to analyze if a word is a palindrome, must determine the first string and understand that each letter has a position. Position 0 or 1 in the case of Thunkable, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And depending on this position, needs to move each letter of each position to a new string in order to build it. Now, at the end, creating a condition that says if these two words are exactly the same, then it will give us the result that is a palindrome, okay? So basically this is the logic of what the program has to do. So number 1, grab a string. Number 2, create a loop where each letter in a descendant way is put into a new string to see if the words are exactly the same. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So remember, each word or each string is considered like a list of letters or characters. Now, each character has a specific position in Thunkable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's review what we need to do in the program. First, use a text input to receive the word. Number 2, create another variable to have our string output. Then we're going to create a for loop, and this for loop is going to start at the last position and then go to each position decreasing by 1. That is a little bit different. And with that letter, with each letter, we're going to populate the new string. And finally, we are going to determine if they are the same. Okay, so we're going to go to our backwards screen, our third screen where it says backwards. It's pretty much the same design that we have used in our other screens, but now we're going to check for palindrome. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to create a variable called str, where we're going to have the initial string or the input string, okay? Then we're going to create another variable called output string. This is where we are going to modify the string and then determine if these two are exactly the same. Okay, now we're going to click the control when button 1 click, and we're going to start setting up our information. First, let's make the variable string equal to the text input message or the word that we want to analyze. Then I'm going to create a loop that counts with I. Now this is a little bit different from the other type of loop. Remember that we started I in 1 or in 0 and then increased by 1. Now in this case, I am going to create the loop with the same amount of iterations, but I'm going to start I at the length of the string, because the length is the number of the last position of the string, to 1, which is the first position of the letter in the string, and then decrease by 1. As I said, on the information before, I'm going to start at the last position and then I'm going to decrease by 1 until I populate all the word. Okay, now that I know exactly how my loop is going to work, like I'm going to go to the end of the word and start decreasing, I need to populate the new string. In this case, I'm going to set the output string to and I'm going to join, and this is very interesting because we've used this before in other activities. From the text menu, I am going to join the letter from position I with, of course, my previous variable. So I'm going to join this letter, okay? And I'm going to join it with whatever had the output string. That way I can populate it, okay? So in this case, I'm going to move it over here, and then I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to look for my output string. So it's going to be output string plus, or added, the letter in the last position, and so on and so forth. So this for loop is going to start at the last position and start populating the new string until it reaches the first position, okay? Now I have two strings, the original string and the output string. Now it's my turn to create a condition. So I'm going to go to my control palette and look for the conditional statement if and else, if and else. So if, and I'm going to look for the condition right over here. If str is equal to output string, then label palindrome, otherwise label not palindrome. That's basically what I'm going to do. So let's go to logic and let's look for the equal sign. Okay, so if str, we're going to look for the variables. If str is equal to output str, then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to set my label. I'm going to click from label, set text to palindrome. Okay, otherwise, I'm going to say not a palindrome. So pretty much that's what we need to do. Okay, so let's go back to our design and let's verify if the words that I input are palindromes or not. This is a program that analyzes if a word is a palindrome. So I'm going to click on preview. Let's start with the word civic. This should be a palindrome, correct? It shows me palindrome. And let me see, let's restart it again. And I'm going to type in the word horse. Horse is not a palindrome, so it shows not a palindrome, okay? So this is very interesting because this is one of the most, on the AP exam, this is one of the pretty much a very common activity or problem that you get is try to get a word backwards in a palindrome using, of course, a loop and using a conditional statement at the end. Okay, now it's your job to understand, to verify each of these and see if you can come up with something different, okay? But this is pretty much the activity that you have to do.